Hi, I'm Scott Wells, and today I'm building some floating shelves that are going to be installed in a home here in Southern Oregon. And I'm going to support those shelves using this piece of steel right here. It's a floating shelf bracket, and it's got this 1.5 inch wide flange on the back with these 6 or 7 inch steel rods attached to it. And I've got to embed this inside this 8/4 fur. Let me show you how I'm going to do that. The flange on this steel bracket is 1.5 inch wide, so I've marked a center line right down the middle of the back edge of this shelf. Then I've marked a line 3/4 inch, equidistant off that center. That's the part of the back edge I need to remove with a router. Now Festool makes a number of router accessories, and here's one of them. This is a jig that your router is intended to ride right on top of, and it's got these 2 adjustable fences. These little black knobs right here allow you to adjust these fences to whatever size you need. In this case, I'm straddling right on top of my shelf, and I've got the fences set to where my router cutter can never creep past the face of the shelf or the back face of the shelf. It's going to ride right on top of it. No matter where I go, that cutter can't slip off. And this hole that's factory punched right in the dead center of this jig will accept this little template guide right here. It'll slip right inside right there, and I don't have to affix it down with screws. I can snap this template guide right to the bottom of my router, set the router right inside the hole, and away we go. Now the steel dowels that extend out from the shelf support are 3/4 inch in diameter. So I'm going to use a 7/8 paddle bit to bore holes for those at these 3 locations. And the 7/8 is a little bit oversized. It should leave about a 1/16 inch all the way around that steel rod. But that's okay because I'm going to pack in some PL Premium, some polyurethane glue when I install this. That's going to help suck up any of that additional space. Now you probably noticed I notched this thing extra deep, 5/8 to be exact. The flange on the steel is just bigger than 1/8. Now remember, this is going to be mounted in a straw bale house, and I've worked on that house plenty. There's not a flat wall in the place. So I left myself plenty of scribe, and I bored the holes deep enough also so I could take off almost a 1/2 inch along this back edge if I need to get the shelf to fit just right. Let's see how this slides in. Fits like a glove. So here we are on install day. We're going to install our floating shelves on this straw bale wall. And just like most remodels, I learn the most about carpentry when I'm working on a house that's older and it's got bowed walls and problems. So the first thing we noticed when we came in here and screwed this steel strap to the wall was that the contour of the wall made the strap deflect so much because of our fastening that it threw these support rods completely out of alignment and created a lot of friction inside that shelf. So much so that when we tried to dry fit the shelf, we couldn't even get it close enough to scribe. We've had to come in here and shim behind the flange to try to straighten out the rods so they'd be aligned with the holes in the back of the shelf. And in addition, we've had to add an extra screw at the top of the flange so we could draw the steel support rod back up into level. So in addition to the 2 floating shelves we're installing, the big floating shelves, we're also installing one smaller floating shelf. This one's only about 4 inches wide, and it's got this groove on the top of it for a little plate rail. So with these smaller ones, and even sometimes with fireplace mantles and things like that, we'll run some lag bolts right into some backing inside the wall, and we'll cut the heads off, and then we'll match them up with some bores that we've put in the back of the shelf. That way it could just slip on right over those bolts, like so. We'll put some PL Premium in there with them, and that thing will just sit forever. We can still scribe it tight to the wall and do all the same things that we could do. We just didn't need these big giant brackets for such a little shelf. So now it's time to mark, scribe, and cut our floating shelves to fit the contours of this particular wall. I've got this lower shelf dry fit on top of these steel rods that are inside of it, and I've got the shelf kind of centered over this hump in the wall right here, and it's about a 3/8 of a gap on each end. So I've set my scribes to 3/8 of an inch, and I've put orange tape around the top and bottom edge of the shelf. That way when I scribe it, I can see my pencil line real easy. Now when I set my scribes for a scribe like this, I start by spreading them out further than I need to go. Then I put the metal straight edge portion of my scribes up against the side of my square, and I squeeze it down until that pencil lead lands right on 3/8. So if I hold my scribes straight up and down right here and perpendicular to the wall surface, I can just drag it right along that orange tape, right along that wall, and leave a nice clear mark right on top of that shelf. Now I've set the table on this saw so that my blade only comes down about 1/2 of an inch below the bottom of the table, and I'll make a kerf on both sides of this shelf. Then I'll worry about taking out the extra meat on both ends that's in between the 2 kerfs, because that wall could be a little different when, you know, up above the shelf versus down below. In fact, I know it is. I could see it in there. So that's the plan. That's what I want to see right there. I want to see constant contact between my 2 cut edges and nothing in the middle holding me out. Ooh, yeah, that's a nice fit. Just another reason I love my scribes.